Hi Tubies, it's Subs Week here on Pagan Perspective and I am your substitute host, Arienda Ravenheart. And this week we are talking about the effectiveness of spells, and we've got a couple of different questions within that topic, talking about how to make spells more effective. So the first question is from Hades1347, who says, do spells work best if you talk to the god or goddess in the language of the culture they come from? And this is a very interesting question, and it's got me thinking about a lot of other things as well, so I'm going to try and answer it and not go too far away from the topic on this one. It would definitely depend, I think, because for me personally, the gods and goddesses that we work with are not necessarily, refined just to that one country or just to that one tradition. For instance, a lot of the gods that we work with are from very ancient traditions in a language that's not even spoken anymore, or a complete variant of the language, such as, the Greek pantheon that I work with. Their language has evolved over the years, so some words that would have been used in ancient Greece aren't really used in modern Greece anymore, and vice versa. So I would say that if you knew the language of the gods or goddesses that you work with, for instance, if they are local to your country, therefore it's in your own language, or it's a language that you study particularly well and that you're well versed in, then I would say, sure, go ahead and use that language if you feel that it has a significance to you. However, what I would say is, don't go out of your way to try and learn the language of your gods if you feel that that would distract from your overall purpose of being there in the first place. If you don't know the language very well, if it's very hard to pronunciate, for me, even now, it's distracting enough in a circle when you're trying to remember the order of things that you've got to do it in. And if you've got to remember, like if you've memorised a particular spell, for instance, to do within a circle, it's hard enough just to remember what it is that you've got to do, let alone if everything that you're saying has to be translated into another language first before you actually say it. So if it helps you, if you're comfortable in that language, then it's fine and it's a nice idea. But if it's going to distract you, make you more uncomfortable and make your practice scattered, then it's not worth sacrificing that. The meaning of why you were there in the first place, your intent on the spell, and whether the meanings come from your heart or not is more important. If we broaden that out entirely, a lot of people find spells or chants or prayers and things that are written in different languages, such as some are written in Old English, that sort of thing. Some are written in completely foreign languages, and you see these chants in different books and say it's a chant to raise power or something, and you have no idea how to pronounce the words and what they mean in the first place, then there's no point in using that, because it's not going to bring you any more power, because it's going to be confusing for you. You don't know what it means, it's not significant to you, it's not personal to you, so it won't have any effect in your spell. If there is something in another language that you don't understand, or that you're uncomfortable using because you can't say the words properly and you don't understand them, then it's really not going to help your spell at all. And if we broaden that again, if you're doing a spell that you found in a book, say like how to do a raising power chant, for instance, and there's like an exact phrase to say, or a phrase isn't really that hard to memorise, so if it is just a phrase or a few words, then it's fine. But sometimes you can find spells or rituals that are pages and pages and pages of exact words to say when calling the corners, when calling the god and goddess, exact words and chants to say. And unless you want to do that, unless you want to memorise a very elaborate ritual that's been created by somebody else, then by all means take what is written in that book and personalise it to yourself. So if it's a chant to raise power and it's calling on a specific deity, go and look up that deity. Think about what they represent to you, what they mean to you, and then use your own words from your heart and from your soul that call to that deity from your opinion. Don't use what's written in a book, because then you have to just learn everything, and then you'll find that within your circle it becomes very forced. It puts you under a lot of unnecessary pressure trying to remember these exact words, and you're not necessarily going to be that attuned with it at the end of the day either. So in my opinion, in circles and rituals, just use whatever comes to your heart and whatever comes to your mind, and don't worry about memorizing anything or trying to pronounce specific things if you don't even understand them in the first place. The second question is from Tori41494, who asks, can herb-scented candles replace a herb in a spell, or is it the herb themselves that contain the power? This is quite a good question. I would say that if it's the magical properties that you're using, for instance to bring you happiness, etc., then a herb-scented candle, scented soaps, incenses, anything like that can quite happily replace the actual power. If it's just the magical or metaphysical properties that you want. However, if you're producing something like a tincture or a cream or a tea, then obviously you are actually going to need to work with the substance, because it's the physical properties that you require, not just the magical ones. So be very, very careful about using substitutes if you're making something like an actual product that you are going to consume or apply on yourself, because obviously there are going to be certain side effects, or maybe even some of these things are poisons that could be used as a magical substitute for a thing, but not a physical substitute. So be very careful when working with herbs if you're actually going to use the thing afterwards. But if it's going into a spell bag, if you're making it into incense, anything like that, then herb substitutes are perfectly fine to use. The other thing that you can do as well is I once read a very interesting idea about how to perform rituals and circles and things entirely in your own mind, where you would cast a circle around yourself and then simply sit in the centre of the circle and do all of your ritual in meditation format. And although that sounds quite hard and quite elaborate, you could take part of that. For instance, if you were in a circle and you really wanted to do a spell that uses basil, and you don't have any basil anywhere in the house, while you're calling the corners, while you're calling the garden goddess, you can also call on the spirit of that particular plant to be in your circle with you. So the magical properties of the plant are being drawn into your circle and being used for the spell, although you don't have the physical substance there for you. So if you welcome the spirit of that plant, you know, that's present in all of that plant all over the world, if you welcome its spirit into the circle, then that would work just as well. And the same goes for if you don't actually have an athame, if you don't actually have a chalice or whatever, that you can just imagine having one and either do the ritual or that part of the ritual in your mind, or you can actually do a meditation and do the whole ritual. For instance, if you're on holiday, if you're away from the home, etc., and you don't have any tools with you or anything, you can, if you're good at meditation, I should say, it's going to be very difficult if you're not well practiced in meditation to do this, but you could actually do the whole circle, you know, imagine yourself at home in front of your own altar with your own working tools, etc., and perform the whole thing in your head. So told you I was going to have a little bit of a roundabout discussion about this one, but I hope that's answered all of the questions for you, that you're all doing very well and enjoying your weeks, and blessed be.